Yes, I know what you want to talk about. You want to say, Scott, 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 Kamala Harris, who is your prediction to be the Democratic nominee, she's out. She's out. Scott, what do you say to that, Scott? Scott, you lost your bet? Scott, are you so ashamed? Scott, do you feel bad? Scott, how will you ever get over the massive humiliation, the embarrassment that you're experiencing right now in public? I'll tell you how. It's in my new book, Loserthink. It's in the chapter about learning to manage your embarrassment. If you can learn to embarrass yourself in public and then discover, watch this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a demonstration here. As you know, I've been shamed and embarrassed with my bad performance in my prediction. But watch this. Watch this. You won't believe this. All right? Watch carefully. Watch this. Watch this. It tastes exactly the same as before I was embarrassed. You know, this coffee didn't change taste at all. It's exactly the same. You're still here. In fact, my audience is bigger than ever because I think a lot of people came in here to see, to mock me for my bad prediction. But what do you do when you make a bad prediction and you are humiliated in public, absolutely shamed and dragged through the mud? What do? Double down, right? You double down. Because it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time of the prediction, that Kamala Harris has no skills at all for being a politician. None. You know, some people have some skills, they're good at some stuff, but they're not good at other things. Kamala Harris doesn't have any skill for being president or being a candidate for president. Now, I didn't see that coming because at the time that I called her, I hadn't really seen her in public much. And when I did, she was doing lawyerly things like at, Senate hearings where she's sitting in a seat acting like a prosecutor. Now, when Kamala Harris acts like a prosecutor in her role as senator, I saw that and I said, it's pretty good. Pretty good. And so I said to myself, well, if she can do that, she can be on TV acting like a prosecutor in a Senate environment, probably she could take those skills into the realm of being a candidate. She could not take those skills into the realm of being a candidate. And I say this with no ambiguity whatsoever. She's the worst candidate I've ever seen in my lifetime. By far the worst. Not even close. I mean, if you were going to say, well, all right, maybe not the worst, she'd be in the category with these two or three people who are down at the bottom. You can't even think of anybody. You literally can't even think of another candidate who did as bad a job as she did. Now, you asked me, am I embarrassed? Do I feel shame for my utter and complete failure in public? No, I do not. Because I do not feel shame and embarrassment like normal people. Because as I talk about in my book, Loserthink, which makes a great gift, if you can learn to embarrass yourself in public and then discover, watch this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a demonstration here. As you know, I've been shamed and embarrassed with my bad performance in my prediction. But watch this. Watch this. You won't believe this. All right? Watch carefully. If you're listening on the podcast audio only, I've picked up a mug of my coffee, and I'm going to take a sip from it. Watch this. Watch this. It tastes exactly the same as before I was embarrassed. You know, this coffee didn't change taste at all. It's exactly the same. You're still here. In fact, my audience is bigger than ever because I think a lot of people came in here to see, to mock me for my bad prediction. But What do you do when you make a bad prediction and you are humiliated in public, absolutely shamed and dragged through the mud? What do you do? Double down, right? You double down. I will now double down on my prediction of Kamala Harris being the Democratic nominee. What? What? How's that even possible since she suspended her campaign? Well, let me tell you about Kamala Harris's path to the nomination, which just improved. What? She just quit. What? How could her path to the nomination have just improved? What? Well, I'll tell you how. Kamala Harris had no chance of getting the nomination fair and square. She had no chance of being the one with the most support when it came to the convention. But she did have a chance of insulting the other candidates to the point where they didn't want to talk to her again if she stayed in the race. And she would have spent a bunch of money and it would have been a waste of time. But now imagine that Biden gets the nomination. Easy to imagine, right? You can't imagine him winning, but you could kind of imagine, as weird as it is, you could imagine it, right? So imagine Biden gets the nomination. Who's he pick for his vice president? You hate where this is going, don't you? Oh, you hate it. Stay with me. Stay with me. So Biden has to pick a vice president. Now, you're going to say to yourself, and I know you're saying it right now, it's in your heads right now, you're saying to yourself, but Scott, you idiot, he's not going to pick the worst candidate in the history of candidates. He's not going to pick the only person of color who isn't even liked by people of color, right? But consider this. Consider this. In order to pick a good vice presidential candidate, what is the main things that that person has to have? What qualities? Well, I'll tell you. They have to show that they could be a politician at a high level, and any senator can show that they're capable of being a politician at a high level-ish, you know. Then somebody says, but she called Biden a racist. Yes, she did. How many times have you seen a vice president chosen as a running mate who had previously said terrible things about the person at the top of the ticket? Normal, routine, doesn't matter. Yeah, it did happen, but it doesn't matter. Wait for it. I haven't even got to the good part. In order to pick a vice president, besides the fact that they have some qualifications, you'd like to have them from a good state, but I think that may be a problem because there's another variable that you have to get right. Are you waiting for it? Biden is running in the party of diversity and inclusion. He's running as a Democrat. He's an old white guy. He has already said, I believe, fact check this, I believe that Biden has said he would pick, or he would consider or pick, I forget what he said, but he's already suggested that he would balance his old whiteness on his ticket. Now, the way you balance being old and white is by having a woman or a person of color or a woman who's a person of color. Now, here's the good part. Wait for it. The president has to pick somebody who looks less capable than the president, him or herself. Hillary Clinton picks Tim Kaine. Who do you think was the better president? Well, Hillary Clinton certainly had more juice and really more everything than Tim Kaine. President Trump picked Mike Pence. Compare Mike Pence to President Trump. Pence is sort of the low voltage version of Trump. If you took away all the interesting things from Trump, you'd have Mike Pence. Perfect. That's a perfect vice president. Ronald Reagan picked George Bush Sr., who was sort of a weaker version of Reagan. And then when Bush became president himself, he had to find somebody who was weaker yet. and he ended up with Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle was barely capable of finding his way to work. But you have to pick a vice president who's weaker than you, or else the contrast doesn't work. You don't want to go into an election with everybody saying, hey, I think the person who's at the bottom of the ticket, the vice president, should be at the top. That's the last thing you want. Now, who among the Democrats that you know would not immediately look like a better candidate than Joe Biden? You see it yet? Who would be a better candidate? No, let's say, who could Joe Biden pick who wouldn't obviously look like that person should have been the president? Think about it. If he picks, let's say Joe Biden goes for Klobuchar. If you saw Klobuchar and Joe Biden both giving a little talk, one after the other, which one would you think should be the president? Klobuchar. It's not even close, right? If, who is the, I just saw a name go by, the woman who lost her race, but we think, can you remind me in the comments, what's the name of the woman, the African-American woman who lost her race? Stacey, what's her name? All right, it'll be in the comments here in a moment. Now, suppose he picked her, and her name's going to go by here in a minute. So, damn it, somebody tell me her name. But you know who I'm talking about. So if you pick somebody who barely lost a race and is black, I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, why isn't, is it Stacey Abrams? Now, why can't I remember her name? But people are going to say, why isn't she the top of the ticket? All right. So Biden would have to pick somebody that you've heard of, ideally, and somebody that is unambiguously less good for president. Stacey Abrams is the correct name. Stacey Abrams, people would ask, why isn't she at the top of the ticket? Now, you may say, well, maybe Biden is better than her, but I don't know if it would look that way. Remember, it's all about appearances. So here's the prediction. Do I think this is likely? Well, nothing's likely. But because it's fun, and because I have not gotten yet enough of your shame and embarrassment and your mocking for my bad prediction about Kamala, here's the prediction. Joe Biden picks Kamala Harris because she won't hurt him, even though she's sort of a cop, and I guess the black voters don't love Kamala Harris, but they also don't vote for vice president. Nobody really cares too much what the vice president is about because they vote for the top of the ticket. So she wouldn't hurt him, but she would balance out the ticket, and she's the only person who's famous and serious enough who also looks unambiguously less qualified than Joe Biden. You got to thread that needle. You got to find somebody who looks qualified and is still less qualified than a guy who can barely know what city he's in. There's not much room there. Thin band. All right. And then before the election itself, the further prediction is that Joe Biden essentially is considered incompetent or takes himself out of the race for health reasons. And then the bottom of the ticket becomes the top of the ticket. Bam, there you go. All right, there's my new prediction. So we'll have to wait a few months to see how that goes.